Welcome to another episode of the Straight Up Chicago Investor Podcast. I'm Tom Shellcross. With me, as always, is Mark Ainley. Mark, how are we doing over there?
Oh, we're not bad, man. We have, it's getting into fall here and starting to be happy to be inside. We got some events coming up, but so otherwise not bad.
Yeah, we our guest today. He actually reached out to us to sponsor the Christmas party between him and a bunch of the other Chicago real estate groups. So we'll be a proud sponsor of that event. I believe it's December 14th.
Yeah, it's exciting. That's good news that we're sponsoring that, especially after we had planned for October the Fiesta on 47th with Ignacio and open up his business, but that looks like it's going to get pushed back to the springtime. So I was kind of bummed out about that. I don't know about you, man. That was a little different of a party we're going to have. So I'm really looking forward to springtime, but I was bummed out about not doing that next month.
No, we'll do it in the spring. It'll be awesome. We'll be good to go there.
I think it'll be maybe better. Don't get me wrong. I know it will be, but I really like our parties that we throw. I always have a good time. So
yeah, man, I feel, maybe we have a second job. We'll just be party planners.
No, it's fun. It's fun. Yeah, especially when
By us, I mean Christine, who does all the work.
Yes.
we don't,
and
we don't
she
do
always,
anything.
and Christine always then texts us trying to get answers to get stuff done. And we're both bad at replying back to her to get for the stuff she needs. So thank you, Christine.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, our guest today, this is a great episode. For those who don't know, Jonathan Klemm, just, super transparent guy. He's been in the Chicago real estate community probably the last 6-7 years, just does a lot of different things. And I'm excited to unpack that. But I guess before jumping in there, Mark, do you have a housing buyer tip of the week to share?
Yeah. The tip of the day, I last week I heard about, it wasn't in our office, another real estate office. We hear about all those wiring scams when you're sending money to closing and somebody hacks your email and gives you a different number to wire to, or says, hey, this number changed. Just want to put it out there. If anything, of a public service announcement, if you are wiring money to a closing, please make sure that you get the instructions from somebody that, and then call the title company that you're going to wiring it to and verify that that's the correct number. And if anybody says that it changed, like that's the biggest red flag.
It did not change.
Yeah, it did not change. It never changes. Be careful. And I don't care if you show up to the closing without having the money, you're better off than making a knee-jerk reaction and change the direction of a wire. So just I've known a couple people over the years personally that have done it. I've had a couple of scares, like I thought I did it, and that panic, that feeling is horrible. I've had people try to hack my email to do it. But I saw somebody I knew of somebody got, they lost, I think it was like $57,000 last week, and they're not going to get that back probably.
No, there's usually no recourse there. So please be careful with it. And I believe with most of the title companies as well, if it's under 50 G's, you can actually do the cashier's check.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So that's if another route you want to take. Now, again, you're going to be carrying that around, but that almost might be a safer bet. If you're just doing like a 5% down or 3% down, it's 25 grand. You might not even have to wire. So, all right. Our guest today, man, this is going to be a good one. So he was on episode 76. He is an investor. He does a ton of construction. He has started and grown his company, Quality Builders. I think Mark and I both consider him a close friend in the community. And so without further ado, let's welcome Jonathan Klemm back to the show.
Jonathan Klemm, 2.5 years ago, you're on the show. I think it was episode 76. What have you been up to, man?
Yeah, 2.5 years has went by. It seems like quickly, and I actually don't like using that word to say it seems like it's flying by, but it honestly seems to go quickly when things are going well. You have a lot going on. Since we last talked, I think it was in the beginning of 2021, if I remember. I was in the middle of my first flip that we got through a wholesale deal, and additionally did ground up new construction. Then took that ground up new construction, did a 1031 exchange into a 19-unit building in the west suburbs, and then most recently bought into a 26-unit here in Grand Crossing. So I've been investing a bunch and now really trying to focus on doing the exact opposite, narrowing my focus down.
Well, I know you have the background, the construction side of things, and you went from a flip to a ground up. Like, talk to us about kind of the thought, why you jumped to that. What was that? Tell us a little bit about that, the ground up.
Yeah, I think for me, in the beginning, at least for me, it's very obvious that saying yes opens up a lot of opportunities and a lot of doors. And so I got really good at saying yes to a lot of things. Yes, I should do a flip. Yes, I should do ground up construction. And so I was trying to do wholesaling. I was trying to do a brokerage. I was trying to do investing and trying to do ground up new construction and a flip. And those things, they don't all mesh well together. And so I got that first property through a mailer, through our wholesale mailer, and it was teed up to be a perfect flip, but it wasn't.
That's I understand how those go sometimes. Let's dig into it a little bit. Cause like, right, I hear a lot of people coming to us saying, like, oh, what can go wrong? Like there's such a big spread. Like talk to us. What are some of the things our listeners want to know about here?
Yeah, I mean, it was the perfect deal. We sent out the mailers, we got the reply, we built rapport with the owner. Super awesome guy. I love him to death. The deal was on the north side, kind of by Skokie, Lincolnwood area. We went and met him, and we helped him clear out the house. And we did all like the typical things that you should do. The deal had a huge spread on it, to be honest. And it was one of those deals where you get it and you're like, holy crap, like this is amazing. I've got to move fast. And at least that's my initial inclination. And now I know if I just move a little bit slower, I'll be able to analyze things better. And so we looked at it as trying to do the bare bones flip. And honestly, if we put a second story on that thing, we would have been selling for 1.5 million. Instead, we went down the path of not getting the permits, bad contractors, and a deal staying a lot longer on my plate than it ever should have been.
Got it. So you took the existing square footage, worked within it, thinking you had a spread there, pulling, easy permit or whatever it might be, not doing the full plans, and all of a sudden things start going south on you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So we didn't plan on pulling permits. Rule number one, don't do it. It's not smart, right? I'm a contractor and I'm trying to do these things. Like it's just obvious that was not a good move. I would never recommend it to any of our clients. I would never recommend it to any newer investor. I don't know if you guys have done it, but like the easiness of not having a permit is just a painful feeling to have, knowing that something could come up at any moment. And we actually got through all the way through the renovation. We hired a contractor we shouldn't have. And he did the work, but it was one of those slow progressions. Stuff is getting done, but not at the right speed.
Well, permit versus no permit, right? There is a line. At some point, you're not going to do it. But what line can you share with us on where it makes sense to follow kind of what you're suggesting here versus like that's bare minimum, you don't have to get a permit?
Yeah, I mean, no matter what, I mean, in Chicago, you can either get an easy permit or you can get a standard permit. And then there's things you don't even need any permit for, right? Cabinets, tile, the basic things that you don't need a permit for. And so for sure, get an easy permit. But even if you're in a different municipality like we were, it's like, take the time to look into that specific municipality and understand what their requirements are, because you think you're saving money, but then you end up stepping over dollars to pick up pennies. And things just continue to roll downhill in the wrong direction when they don't start off right.
Well, in this scenario, did you look at the website for the village and make the conscious decision not to do it, or did you just skip that part altogether and just make the decision not to?
I think I was so excited about the deal that I was just moving forward. I was like, look at it. And it's crazy because if I could have wholesaled it, it would have been better than what I did. I could have taken the right time to build a better plan, and it would have been, easily a 6-digit flip plus double, triple that maybe. Like it was that good of a deal. And it was just the definition of going too fast and not slowing down, which is funny because my theme for the year for 2022 was acceleration, growth, and expansion. And so I did what I was supposed to do. But when you're going so fast, sometimes it ends up making you have to slow down by choice.
What part of it, because we don't talk about this that much, what part of the project, or how soon after you got going, did you get inspector come knock on the door? Tell us a little bit about the actual busting.
That's a fun experience. Sarcasm there. No, but so we were nearly done, to be honest. Like, and here's the worst part is we were doing the windows. Like, if you're doing the windows, please, for the love of God, please pull a permit. Like, it makes no sense to do any exterior work ever and not pull a permit. And so, yeah, we've done the windows. I'm sure one of the neighbors, or by chance, is driving by, right? In Lincolnwood and Skokie area, like, there's not that much going on. Like, they're going to see when there's stuff going on, people are driving by. And then sure enough, you get that big yellow sign on the front of your door. And yeah, I'll admit there was crying involved. Like, I was not in a good place. It took me to a deep, dark, bad situation. And then we ended up having to go back and fix things. We got first you have to go back and get drawings. So went back and get drawings, and then you go through the submittal process with the city. And you guys know how that can be. It is a back and forth process. And then so finally we got our permit and we could start work again.
I always tell people the suburbs are I think even tougher, because think about this village of, just say, Lincolnwood. There could be 200 to 300 people that work for that the actual village, which means there's a good chance someone could live on every other street. So there's always they're right on top of where your project is. It could be next door for all you know. So it's so much harder to call it fly under the radar when you're in the suburbs.
Yeah, you're not gonna put the wool over anyone's eyes, especially if you're doing exterior work. If you got a dumpster, if you have anything like that, it's not worth it.
A guy called me up a couple of weeks ago and he's like, yeah, man, I had the windows covered with garbage cans and everything. They still got, or garbage bags, and they still got me. I'm like, yeah, you had the windows covered with garbage bags. Like, that's just
nothing to see here, folks.
Yeah. Like,
so Jonathan, appreciate being super open about all this. So can you give us an idea, just time lost, the amount of rework you had to do? Like, what was the, like tangibly, what, besides the emotional part of this, like tangibly, how hard did this hurt?
Yeah. So once we actually we had to get the proper subcontractors too, because of course the guy we'd hired, he had his guys, and then when push comes to shove on getting someone's name on a permit, they're not licensed. So then you end up doing rework on work that was already done. The best part about this was we had the cabinets, maybe countertops, all in when we did the first rough inspection, if we can call it that, when everything's pretty much put back together. And funnily enough, there was asbestos under the kitchen tile. And yeah.
So remove and remediate. You have to, you can't even take care of that. You got to call the certified companies who pay the $25,000 of insurance every year.
Yes. So all of the cabinets were installed. We take all the cabinets out. We have to take out all of the new tile, because we put down 12 by 24 tile in the kitchen. All of the tile came out. I did it myself. That was my own pain infliction that I deserved to have to go through this. And then you have to remediate. You have to get a remediation company that comes in, seals it off.
Yep.
Even though encapsulation is a form of remediation. But when you do things the wrong way, the inspectors have every right to make you do it the correct way.
So real quick for our listeners there, just because sometimes, let's say you have a 2-unit, you have the basement, you might see, the asbestos on the pipes, but it's wrapped, right? Like in that situation, you're theoretically okay to just leave it as long as you're not busting it up, et cetera. Like if it's encapsulated, everyone knows it's there and it's fine. It's when you need to start removing or fixing or whatever, that's when you need like an actual third party, an actual remediation company. There's a couple that we've used several times to get that out of there, because you're in theory not, one, legally allowed, and two, if your guys they're just normal demo guys, they're probably not dressed and prepared for that, and they're exposing themselves.
Yeah. As soon as you disturb it, like Mark was in that's as soon as you have to get someone else involved. And so he saw it, and at that point, he's having a little bit of enjoyment, I think, out of, making us do some of the rework there, but I mean, at the end of the day, like it was beautiful. Like I'm so happy it happened. I'm so grateful for the experience because it's like at the end of the day, like inspectors are really there to ensure that we're building to code for a reason. Like they're not there to hurt us and give us penalties and fines. And so like going through that process helped me be a better investor, better contractor, most importantly. But yeah, it's a grueling experience. So yeah, lost time, probably 6 to 8 months, rework, nothing, I would guess 30 to 40,000 easily. And it would be a rough guess with all the holding costs and everything that ended up going into it.
So when you go to get a permit from day one, there's the scope you get the permit for. And then we get bused for no permits. You get a stop work order. There's all the work that they now drag your ass through because you didn't get permits, in addition to the original scope that if you just got the permit. What type of dollar amount do you think a scope you had to do that you would have had done if you just got permits on the front end?
I would guess like 15 to 20,000 would be that cost, and then probably 10 to 15 easily in the holding costs.
Wow.
Yeah. It's
That's
painful
amazing.
too when that time's going on and you got hard money out and you got to get another extension and another extension. And yeah, it's not a fun process. Yeah. But when you get to the other side, you get it finished, you still make money. Like that's a win, like I still made a good amount of money on the project. But what it could have been, it also makes me sad because it could have been a beautiful, 25,000 or 2,500 square foot, 3,000 square foot, beautiful mansion in that area.
Well, I think about all the royal mess ups I've had in my career, and probably the biggest thing that I can't ever put a true number to is opportunity costs. So while your mind was messing with that, or the projects you weren't doing, or the marketing you weren't working on for something else, like that's those real costs that are opportunities that you lost because your mind was somewhere else.
Yeah, I think, even for this year, my theme, because I put a theme to every year, was yes is a commitment, no is a choice. And so I've been saying no to everything I can this year to get just super focused on our business opposed to any investment. So I'm not doing any investments anymore unless something comes on like a silver, gold, not even silver, platinum platter. I'm not interested in. We can partner and stuff like that, but like, someone else has to be doing all the work. It's so easy, at least it was for me, as you kind of grow and expand, more opportunities come. It's so easy to say yes to everything. And then you build too many bridges and then you're stuck in one place because you don't have anything finished.
Yeah. There's also a saying, this might be Brandon Turner, but someone said you can actually go broke doing good deals. I believe there's some truth to that, right? Like you can go broke doing good deals. You either A, run out of money, run out of focus. Like every time you say yes to something, like you mentioned, you're exposing yourself to whatever, more tenants, more potential law. Like every time you do say yes, there's a true cost or an added layer of, call it, risk or lost opportunity. So,
Yeah, there's no doubt about the opportunity cost is huge, especially when in real estate. I think, so often, it's so easy to get overwhelmed and have so much pressure because you see what everyone else is doing. But yeah, for me, that flip really humbled me, made me a better person, made me find the right support system too. Because I think if we don't have the right outlets, the right guides, the right mentors through our journey, it gets super lonely and it gets super tough to do by ourselves.
yeah. All right. So you take on ground up construction after this, right? So we just go through this, pretty crappy experience and say, yeah, screw it. Let's build something from the ground up.
Yeah. It was kind of, it was in combination, actually. The other project was going on at the same time. And I had a pretty traditional path for most investors, kind of, I think, where I had the W-2, I house hacked twice. And this was actually from my first house hack. It was a double lot. And so we did a gut renovation on the 2-unit building. I was able to refinance, get the lot free and clear, and then use the equity in that lot to fund the ground up construction. And that was, right around the time that I had got fired twice from my past tech company. And so I couldn't get a loan either. That's a really hard thing to do, is find someone to give you your first ground up construction loan with no partners. Again, finding partners is amazing. And so that's kind of, and then I just had built enough of a network to know the right electricians, plumbers, and, all of these carpenters and mechanical contractors to put it together. And so, yeah, use the equity in the lot. Went through 2 sets of plans because there was actually an original developer that had plans to build a single family, and I wanted to do a 2-unit. And so then there's something called type 1 zoning change, which means you have to build according to whatever that previous developer had done.
Yeah. So did you end up stuck with that, or were you able to make the adjustment?
Yeah. So we resubmitted plans. So I think $7,000 or $8,000 in drawings went away because I didn't reach out to the alderman right away. So that would have been the first thing to do: reach out to the alderman, see what I had, and resubmit the plans again. Also had to go through a zoning change and a variance because my building was actually properly zoned RT4, but the land was zone M1-2. And so because those 2 lots were at one time adjoined, you have to end up rezoning the lot as well.
Yeah, so I've had a similar situation, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when you end up, so you had like 2 separate parcels, right? You have the lot and you have your building. But if they're still on zoning wise, if they're still under one lot, right? Like it's all zoned the same, no matter how many pins you put on that city lot, right? Is this like similar to what you went through, or am I way off here?
For me, it had 2 separate pins, and it actually was zoned separately twice. But the previous developer, on the zoning change, they had measured 24 feet the wrong direction, and so they had rezoned my lot. I had misspoken earlier. My lot was properly zoned, my building wasn't, and then the building next door to my lot had gotten rezoned. And it was a 24-foot difference on the zoning change. And so it was my building I had to get rezoned. I had misspoke earlier. But for me, it's like, if you have a separate pin, they all had separate zoning. But because at one time they were used as one separate or one combined lot, that's what triggered the zoning change.
Okay. Man, it's a mess.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I worked with Tom Moore, excellent zoning attorney. And he said he hadn't seen another case that had so many loopholes. And then again, it's like we tried so many times to maybe oh, maybe we'll skirt our way through this way. And no, we got denied every time at trying to do something faster, and it always took longer.
Got it. Tom Moore is a good dude. So that's Samuel Pavlicek we've had on the show multiple times. That's his go-to zoning attorney. So that's someone we should get on.
You guys have both used him?
Yeah.
So Jonathan, that 8720 May that you're helping me on, he actually helped me get rezoned that because he had to do an as is permit and the property extended. So yeah, I've used him as well too. He was referred to me by Prashant. So this guy gets around, man.
We're buttering him up to do some sponsorship here.
Yeah, no, he's awesome. He's great. Like he just says it how it is, man. Like he's almost like entertaining in a way. Like in my dealings with him, I actually look forward to his almost weird, awkward, fun phone calls.
we will link to him in the show notes, because that is someone, if you're going to start doing these type of developments, like you need a zoning attorney, not just an architect, but someone who only understands zoning, understands the aldermans, all the fun stuff that you need to do to get things done in the city.
Yeah, good guy, man. Good guy. That's funny. We've all used them, and none of us knew that.
So Jonathan, you said you took this, so you do the ground up here, and you 1031 this into a 19 unit.
Yeah, about a 19.
So taking one step back, then, like, it's a pretty successful ground up, no?
Yeah, I mean it was, but it's a little bit convoluted, right? Because I own the building next door, so the profit wasn't super clear. We'd actually started our business at the same time, so I ended up paying a little bit more in profits to the business to help fuel that. And so, but then, yeah, I was still able to take those proceeds, probably 160,000, and then buy a 19 unit with a partner using a 1031 exchange.
Got it. Talk to us through some of those tactics, of doing the actual 1031. And on your buy, it's not the same entity, right? You have whatever LLC you had. Now you're partnering with someone. Like, talk to us a little about just how is there any complications there? Is that pretty straightforward for a 1031 exchange specialist?
Yeah, I wasn't necessarily planning to do a 1031 exchange either. It honestly fell in my lap. I'd put it out into the ether that I was looking for a building to potentially do it. And then of all people, John Warren, who's on the west side, if you're looking for a building in the Cicero Berwyn area, he is the man to talk to. He'd already looked at the building and he couldn't buy it because he was in another closing. And so it was still off market. We ended up offering full price, and it just kind of like fell together perfectly. And we actually had to do a tick too, tenants in common, because of the partnership and because of the 1031 exchange.
Oh, that's how you did tenants in common. Because I've struggled with that too, where I sold the property and then I took on a new partner, and we just put it into that new entity and reformed that. It was a weird workaround we had to do for it.
Yeah, we had to do a similar thing where we had to put in tenants in common, and now still hopefully we'll be able to refinance at some point and put it into Freddie and Fannie long-term financing, and then we can hopefully put it into an LLC so we're not nearly as exposed.
Well, 3 different adventures here though. Like, was this part of the plan, or is this just opportunities coming your way?
Yeah, I think it kind of ties in back to what I was saying earlier. It's like when you're getting started, yes is a superpower, because you actually don't really know what you want to be doing. There's so many different strategies in real estate, whether it's Airbnb or midterm rental or long-term rental or flipping or wholesaling. It's like in the beginning, saying yes helps you get closer to find a thing that you really want to do. And so I had no plan, to be honest. I kind of knew I wanted to start these entities to kind of build a kind of full system cycle with real estate on the buy side, on the sell side, on the renovation side. But I just found like I'd actually set my goals for last year and I got 25% of each of the 4 goals because of having too many things going on at once.
What was last year's theme?
Last year's theme was grow, expand, accelerate.
Oh, that was last year's. Okay.
Yeah, last year's. This year is yes as a commitment, no as a choice. And so I've said no to everything this year. Mark and I were in GoBundance. I said no to GoBundance. I was in Strategic Coach, another coaching program. I've said no to that. So many other deals I've just started to say no to, and just gotten super hyper focused on what I know I'm supposed to be doing. And I think that's, like I was saying earlier, part of the issue when you're getting going is just so easy to say yes and not know exactly what you're trying to do. And then as time goes on, you kind of slowly meander your way, at least I did, to kind of finding your passion, your purpose, and a way you can serve and be impactful.
So what is that, right? What are you hyper focused on right now?
Yeah. What's the end of
Like, what do you want to be known? Jonathan Klemm, when that name gets brought up at a meetup, like what do you want people to be thinking?
Yeah, so I for sure want them to be thinking about our contracting business, Quality Builders. I think, there's nothing more important to me than that. Just through talking what I've talked to, like you can see, I've been through enough trials and tribulation, and that's just not even scratching the surface to know that it's difficult working with contractors, working with subcontractors. I don't think there's honestly another like underappreciated industry than kind of our subcontractors, like plumbers, electricians, carpenters. And I think there's just a better way to do business. And so that's really my primary focus is building that business, helping people. There's just so many contractors that run away with people's money, end up ghosting them. One of our models is #NoGhosting. But yeah, that's my mission right now.
I like that one. That's good. All right. So I do want to take one step back though. So this 19 unit, because you haven't owned something this big before, correct?
Correct.
All right. So talk to us, like you're 50-50. Are you part of the day-to-day operations? Did you hire a PM? Like there's got to be some stories here. You don't just walk into a 19 unit building and say, all right, that was cool. This is running like clockwork. Let's move on.
Yeah. I mean, up until that point, I'd managed everything myself, the other 2 units. And sure enough, again, said yes to thinking I could manage the building. That was 19 units. And, I have a little bit of background in property management, but not enough in that specific asset class, which is just super important. The calls you get, the attention it needs is more than the time that I had. And so it went okay. And then immediately there was just too many things going on again. And we had to outsource it. It was just another thing I had to get off my plate to properly get dialed in and more focused. And so, yeah, we tried to start it out. We had flooding. We had also issues with the city, the village of Cicero. They do an inspection report, and man, it takes forever to get these things addressed with the villages. And so,
It's like a
again,
point of sale that they do an inspection.
yeah, point of sale inspection, big old long list of things. And yeah, then again, I found someone who knew what they were doing. I've learned I'm not really good at anything but finding people who are good at what they do. And if I can let them do that and just be the connector and finder, that's way more value than trying to do something I'm, not that good at. And property management was one of those things. And property management, Mark, like you never get a call that says my heat is working amazing. Like, I love this. Thank you guys. You guys are doing so well. GC Realty. Like, all you get is bad calls, so it's just a rough industry equally compared to contracting.
I was trying to this morning actually think about like how, because it is no one hires us unless they want to offshore those offset those problems. No one calls us up unless they have a problem. Tenants never call us to say we're doing a good job. So it's like the only way we could actually get that rewarding feeling is if we're proactive. So I was trying to kind of articulate that into like you can only just get people are grateful for you if you're being proactive in the property management space. And that's the only way you can do it. And most property managers are not. They're very reactive, which then the industry just beats the hell out of you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true for our lives. We go through our lives reactive. We don't slow down enough to, figure out what we want or how to slow down. I think it's just so easy with so many things going on with our phones, with social media. We have so many freaking distractions now that it's super, super hard to be proactive in our life or in our business or in our relationships. I think if there's anything anyone can take away from this is like figuring out how to slow down. What does that look like for you?
Yep. All right. Before you slowed down, though, you then bought a 26 unit. Right.
Yeah,
Like these are big boy purchases. So talk to us a little about this. Like, first off, talk to us the mindset. Were you looking for something, or this just kind of happened to fall on the plate?
Yeah, again, yeah, it's completely fell in our lap. We're actually buying into it, so we have a second position lean on it. But it was someone through Bigger Pockets. There's something I've been super active on. Has been getting on Bigger Pockets, posting in the forums, trying to help people out. I just know how hard it was struggling on my own. And yeah, someone came to me and said, "Hey, I like the way you did business. I have a property that was on the south side that wasn't getting managed properly. They got sold some bad numbers and they needed someone who just had boots on the ground." And so, yeah, the property is half vacant. We're restabilizing it. And we again, completely outsourced property management from the very get-go. And that wasn't even a thought, but and it takes a special property manager to work. It's in the greater Grand Crossing area. So you got to be super attentive to figuring out what the right strategy and plan is.
Yeah, let me thank you publicly for your Bigger Pockets. I get the daily digest of my keywords, and it's usually taken over by you, by your post.
22 comments by Jonathan Klemm.
Yeah. So, but you refer us a lot, you refer our resource a lot, and I definitely appreciate it. And Tom and I both appreciate that. So thank you.
Yeah, you're very, very welcome. I feel like you guys have done the same thing for all of us in the Chicago investor community. I feel like you guys have changed the game, to be honest. It's such a good resource to have people talking about what they're doing, exactly where you're doing. And, there's probably not one thing you guys haven't covered where someone can't go to a search and just find the exact topic that they're already looking for.
We're getting there. We're trying. So, all right. So this Greater Grand Crossing one, are you actively managing this, or what's your role?
No. So we outsource property management. We're going to help with some of the renovations, and we're really just kind of guiding it. We made the right connections to the right banks, the right property managers, and we're really just kind of boots on the ground. We're going there, working with the property manager. We outsource it, like I said, immediately. And, the first point of the strategy was getting it secure, getting cameras working, getting fences up and gates locked, and getting the exterior doors properly fixed. Because if you don't have that security, like when you're bringing in new tenants, they're going to see that stuff. They know what's going on. There's activity. It's like you just have to address the outside first. And then once you get the outside addressed, work from the inside in and clean up the units and start getting the vacancies filled.
Working on the South Side for a decade, I underestimated how powerful security was to making your tenants stick around, attracting the right tenants. So I just want to point that out to everyone that's on the South Side or West Side, or just call it areas that might have higher crime or people that are more nervous about crime. So, what block are you on in Greater Grand Crossing?
71st, I believe. 71st in Indiana.
Oh man, that's great. That's so the closer you get to 71st right there is great. We had a 18 unit on 69th in Wabash. But that's great. You got the school right there.
So now that we're slowing down, like we're not actively looking at other investments, you've kind of cut ties with some of these other groups or mentors that you've leaned on before. Is everything right now about quality builders? Like, is that we're just looking at quality builders, and how do I grow this to X or whatever the goal is there? Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah, that's a super, super accurate statement. Yeah, I think for us, it's about putting automation systems, processes in place that can scale. I think for a lot of times when you're starting a business, you got to do things that can't scale. And then eventually you got to switch that flip to things that can scale and grow. So it's like, yeah, I've said no to a lot of things, and just to narrow my focus. It's so, at least for me, it's super easy to feel like I'm doing a lot of things and then look at what I've done and feel like I've done nothing, right? It's so easy to go on, start your day with emailing, and not really get anything done. But I feel like having focus becomes a superpower, to be honest.
What else have you learned in focusing on growing we call it reoccurring long-term enterprise business? Because we don't talk about that much on here. And I think you may have talked a little offline here that there's a lot of value to anyone, because growing a real estate portfolio is still growing a business as well too. So,
yeah, I mean, without a doubt, I think if there's anything that you can take away, it's like you have to really treat your real estate portfolio like a business for it to start running efficiently. And I think, I always try to ask everyone, especially even like on Bigger Pockets, like, what's your why behind what you're doing? And because I think once you get into that, it makes things a lot easier. And I think for most of us, we didn't realize what real estate was, at least for me. And, real estate ends up equaling money. Money equals time, and time equals freedom in my head. So it's like, we're all working towards that freedom. And so real estate's really that first avenue, that first business that you can start to give yourself some more time.
No, I like it. Good answer. So let's talk about quality builders for a second here, right? Because a lot of our listeners probably know you from the different meetups. I know you're very active in the community, but for those who have never heard of Jonathan Klemm, they're investors looking out there. They might need an experienced GC. What's the 30-second elevator pitch, like quality builders? Why should that be of interest to our listeners?
Who's your avatar?
Who's our avatar? Yes. So yeah, that goes back to your last question too, Mark, is like growing your enterprise business. Who's your avatar? So we actually have 3 separate avatars. So we've got a newbie Nate, we've got an intermediate Iris, and we've got a seasoned Sam. And so really kind of our target avatar is more of the newbie Nate, intermediate Iris. So newbie Nate would be someone who's getting started. They're looking 203K loan. That's kind of our, target client would be, a 2-unit full gut renovation, maybe $250,000. And then we have our intermediate Iris, which that's someone who's probably done over 5 deals ish. So they've worked with some contractors, they understand the pain, and either looking to grow or looking to find someone they get along better with. And then seasoned Sam, that's someone 50 plus units. And the only reason they're coming to work with us at this point is because they're either trying to scale or they've got a contractor who can't keep up with what they're doing.
I love that, dude. I got 8 different avatars for who hires a property manager. And I was gonna I was started drawing cartoon characters, shitty cartoon characters that someone else could make better. But I love that you've named them like that. I don't know if that's a strategic coach thing, but I know that's something that we do around here.
Yeah, I think until you know who your target client is, until you know what your target real estate investment is, you don't really know what you're looking for. I think it all ties back all together. Like all marketing is the same. You have to know what you're looking for in order for you to get it. And so the easier you can map that out, you can really write the narrative. You can paint a picture of what you're looking for, whether it's a property or whether it's a client. I think it's just super important to have that kind of crystal clear vision of what you're looking for.
Well, I think I'm going to add on to that because I think it helps you define what you're not looking for. Similar to like when you go stand in a room of 7 people and you're trying to learn something, attract something, like if you know who you're not looking for, you know where to spend the time or whatnot. I know for us, if someone has a certain type of property or maybe a short term, it's like, I know right away, we don't have to talk much. I can actually refer you to someone that can actually really help you and I'll add value that way. But I'm not going to spend 20 minutes kind of walking you through something that I can't provide. And that's where you get your time back. That's where you leverage your time when you know exactly what you're keyed into it.
Yeah.
But it's sad though, because then like when you start business, you want to help everybody. You want to, everyone be a client. You want to walk in the room, everyone's like opportunity, but it actually works against you so much when you look at it like that. I remember my business partner, Cliff, always made fun of me. He's like, yeah, man, you freaking offer to change your oil on the weekends. You're trying to make everyone a client somehow or some way.
Yeah, I think that's the same for us too. Is like in the beginning, we would just have a consultation with anyone and everyone. And the more you can kind of at least get to a more qualified lead, the easier it's going to be to close that deal. I mean, same thing with everything you do, wholesaling or whatever. The more you can ask a couple more questions, say, okay, do you have a project coming up in the next 3 to 6 months? Yes or no? Is your project over a certain amount, 100,000? Yes or no? And then, if you can put people through that same process, no matter what you're doing to get to the qualified lead, it's going to be so much easier to close that deal because you've gotten rid of kind of all of the unqualified leads. I was going to say garbage, but that's a horrible word to use. So
yeah, the ones that don't fit, right? This works for agents, for lenders, for anyone, right?
You're saving their time too. Like if people don't have to get a 15-minute call to realize it didn't fit, then that you just wasted their time too. So that's, I feel it's a very respectful way of approaching business when you're trying to call it screen is the right word. So
yeah. And even as an investor, right? Like you're not doing this with other people per se, but if you just look at every OM that comes across your desk, you're going to drive yourself crazy.
Yeah.
Right. You just got to know, like, these are the areas I play in and this is where I don't, and not waste time.
Yeah. So much easier said than done. So much easier to say yes than no. And I feel like that turns into superpower, is starting to say no to everything and then know what you're really supposed to be focused on.
Well, let me ask you a question though. You talked about your day. It's easy to feel like you're getting stuff done. And I've been down that road. I think there's days I still go down that road where it's like, I don't know why I'm so tired. I accomplished nothing today. Like if in my whole scheme of things, like I accomplished nothing. I still didn't call back this person. Like how do you really focus, or how do you partition your day to make sure you have focused time, I guess?
Yeah, that was a really good question. I mean, I've gotten pretty systematic about every part of my life, whether it's personal or business. And so for me, as soon as I started tracking things started to change for me, and I use a super simple app. It's called Habit Share, I think. And, I've got my morning routine, my evening routine. Those are the two things that really get me in the right frame of mind. I think most people hear about the morning routine. But what I've found is if you can have an evening routine of the way you can go to sleep, then it makes your morning routine that much easier. And so I've tried to treat every part of my life like a system. I feel like I love the phrase structure provides freedom. And once you have that structure in your life, then it actually opens up more time for that kind of creative side. And I've just continually to find if I add new habits. The newest habit I added was the 3 goals at the end of my day. So I'll do 5 gratitudes in the morning, 3 wins at the end of the day, and then 3 goals for the next day.
But it's so important. How do you make sure you're getting those 3 goals down the next day? Because those are the 3 things. Those 3 things that you lay out for the next day literally are the 95% of what you should do in the day. There's tons of people that say like you get those 3 things done. I know for me, when I get my 3 things done, if I do nothing else, it doesn't matter. It was a win for that day.
Yeah, I just started this habit maybe like 3 or 4 days ago, to be honest. So I've gotten really, really good at my journal. So I write in my journal every day. I had my 5 gratitudes. I took from Strategic Coach the 3 wins at the end of the day. And I just started implementing, writing it in the journal, the 3 goals. and yeah, I mean, what I track changes. And so I'm just, the one sheet for GoBundance that, opened up just a new frame of mind of like, it's easy to track things in a business, or I think it's more relevant, I feel like, to most of us. But when you actually start tracking things in your personal life that you want to change, I've found that like all of those things on the business side end up falling more into place than anything else.
It drives wives crazy though when I'm a machine, both sides of the day. Eat that frog first. I think we've talked about it here. Like that's kind of the mentality I have, because those three things, to me, it stresses me out until I get those done. Because I want to make sure I feel like I did something that day.
Yeah. All right. So Jonathan, what does the next, call it, 3 years look like for Quality Builders? Like, what are you marching towards here? And after you answer that, then I want to also hear what's your outtake on Chicago over the next 3 years.
Yeah, next 3 years. I have always super ambitious goals. So I'd love to say we'll be all over the country. But I think one of the things that Mark pointed out to me is like, there's just so much business here in Chicago to focus on. And so, yeah, I mean, we want to continue to cultivate our relationships with subcontractors, with clients, and really just continue to build technology. We just actually launched something on our website called the Instant Estimator, where you can go in, you can punch in whether it's a single family, condo, multifamily, number of beds, number of baths, cosmetic or full renovation, and you get an estimate. Truth be told, it's very rudimentary and elementary, but at least it gets you a starting point. And so we kind of want to continue to build on that technology so that hopefully, in theory, it's like, I believe in tech just because that's where I came from. But it's like you should be able to plug in an address just like a Zillow or Redfin and kind of put in the parameters of your scope and get an estimate on how much it's going to cost. So that's really what we're trying to do, is really kind of automate that process as much as possible, and then slowly automate things further down the line as far as subcontractors, as far as scheduling, as far as materials. I'd love to be the Amazon of construction and have control over all of the rough material. As soon as a subcontractor gets on site, we ship it to them. They never leave the site. They never have to do ordering materials. And if they need something, there's like a cool company called Reno Run. They say, hey, I need, 2 pieces of copper. It's there in 2 hours. And so that's what we want to be able to do, is let the carpenters, electricians, and plumbers do what they're actually really good at, which is the work. And then let us do everything else and figure out how to automate and systematize as much as possible.
I love the passion. You better focus on those 3 daily things. That's a lift, man.
Let's hear about Chicago too. What do you think about our city?
I mean, I love Chicago. First of all, for real estate investing, I think I always say it all the time. It's like we have just an unlimited supply of multifamily buildings, especially multifamily buildings that need renovation. And so I just can't express how good we have it in some instances because of all that old inventory. And on top of that, we have price points at every level. You can go buy a house for 40 or 50,000, or you can go buy a house for $5 million. And so I think with those like 2 parameters of that inventory and price point, that I will never get sick of investing in Chicago. It obviously has its pain points, taxes and crime. But as long as you build your numbers into it, I'm going to redo that part. But as long as you use your numbers to figure out how to modify for those taxes and for those areas that are going to be rougher to live, it let data do the talking for you. That's one of my big things, is use the data and then make your decision. So as much as we can leverage that, I love Chicago. I'll invest here for a very, very long time.
All right, it's good stuff. Mark, anything else? Are you ready to wrap?
No, man, it's wrap, dude. Love it. Love the conversation. Awesome. All right, Jonathan, you've been through these questions before, but you've been through a lot more since you've been through these questions. So excited to hear your updated answers. So what is your competitive advantage? How have you been able to do this over the last couple of years while others wish they could?
Yeah. So my competitive advantage previously was saying yes. And now my competitive advantage is going to be saying no. And so I think I'll just challenge everyone. It's like, figure out where you're at on that spectrum. I think our life goes in those seasons that sometimes we have to say yes to everything. And then as we have more opportunities, we need to start saying no to more things. So it's just like those are my two things: saying yes less and no more.
Yeah, no, they both serve their purpose in everyone's life.
All right. What is one piece of advice you would tell someone that is yet to buy their first property here in Chicago?
I just think taking action as soon as possible is the most important thing. I think getting people in your corner, building your team is probably the most important thing. Get people around you, bounce ideas off them, but take action. I think too often people are looking for the perfect deal getting started. And the key to getting ahead is getting started. And just too often than not, I see people trying to find a needle in a haystack, especially right now with interest rates, that if you can even find a deal that remotely works, especially like house hacking and stuff like that, just get the deal done. There's nothing that's going to make you go faster than taking action now.
All right. StraightUpChicagoInvestor.com. Build your team. Jonathan and Quality Builders are on there as well. So check that out. Way to plug it without even realizing you plugged it. All right. What do you do for fun?
Ooh, what do I do for fun?
Has that changed?
Yeah, I like to think it's changed. I mean, so I'm still traveling quite a bit. I got a new niece, so I just got a new baby, so I'm going to Phoenix soon. Yeah,
Congrats.
I mean, I enjoy what I do, but I also enjoy like really dividing a line of when I'm shutting my mind off. So getting out in nature, going hikes, walking. Walking is actually pretty fun for me. Listening to podcasts. I like riding the train, which is different from most people. I really love the CTA. So, yeah.
You know, Mark gave me a bad time. I took the L when we went to dinner last time, and he's like, "You took the L? What are you doing?" So it's this freaking suburbanites.
Risky business.
All right. You mentioned podcasts. Give us either a good book, podcast, or self-development activity that you'd recommend to our listeners.
Yeah, I'll give two books. The Power of Now, which is an Eckhart Tolle book. It's about kind of being present. Probably one of the most impactful books I've read recently. And then Jay Shetty has a really good book called Thinking Like a Monk. And so I'm really about being present as much as I can be. I mean, I think that's one of the best things about the podcast is like it forces us to be present. And so whatever those activities you can find to bring you presence, I feel like that's a beautiful way to meditate and kind of get out of the everyday hustle of life.
Jay Shay's got another good book about, I think it's about love, but he's got a good podcast too. He's a very good thought leader.
Yeah. On Purpose is his podcast.
All right. Besides yourself, name one person in your local network you'd highly recommend to other investors as a quality resource.
Yeah. I'll say Prashant again. I feel like that's who I said the last time, but PMPC Architects, he's just done really good by me the entire time. I think most importantly, I mean, Mark has been a good influence. I feel like the people who are a little bit ahead of your journey, just find out who they are and kind of connect with them on a regular basis. Just makes your life so much easier when someone's a couple steps ahead of you.
Awesome. Jonathan, thank you so much. You provide a ton of value to our listeners. How can they learn more about you? Is there any way they can provide value to you?
Yeah, we are on all of the social links. So, but we're Quality Builders Inc. on Instagram. That's probably where we're doing most of our action. Bringing value to us is bringing some deals to us so we can do some bigger renovations. The bigger, the better for us, and want to keep growing and helping people because it's tough out there working with contractors, and we want to bring a better name to contractors in Chicago.
All right, and we'll link to all those the social media links for Quality Builders in the show notes. Mark, who are we playing for? Who's sponsoring the Chicago Fact?
All right. Today's Chicago Fact is brought to you by GC Realty Development, LLC, we celebrated 20 years yesterday from the day we filed our LLC paperwork. And we're playing for Dana Theron. So Dana, if you or if myself or Jonathan get this question right, we'll get you $50 gift card brought to you by GC.
All right. So we have a guest with a lot of construction background. So I kind of cherry picked this question. So Mark, you probably knew this. I did not know this, but back in the 1800s in Chicago, there's a lack of drainage and there's a lot of pandemics. In 1854, we actually had one that took out 6% of the city. So the way to get this was, hey, what do we got to do? We need better drainage to get all our sewage out of here. We actually raised the city. And one of the first buildings they raised was the Tremont House. It was a hotel about an acre large. Got raised 6 feet while there was 500 guests in it, most of them oblivious to the entire process. They took this giant building and raised it up 6 feet. Just unbelievable. And this crazy architectural feat was led by, and your options are, Ed Krupp, George Pullman, Franklin Lloyd Wright, William McCormick.
I'm going to go with McCormick, actually.
Jonathan, throw a guess out there.
I have no idea, but I'll go with George Pullman.
Saving the day. Our boy George Pullman was involved with the Trayman House.
Was he really?
Yeah.
Oh, no way. So if anyone ever wants to send me a gift, there's a painting out there of that actual house being lit, or that building being lifted with all of the jacks underneath it. So if anyone ever wants to give me a Christmas gift coming up here, I'll take that.
That's awesome.
Oh man, dang, nice job. All right, well, Dana, you get $50 gift card brought to you by GC. So nice job. I would have said Pullman was not one of the options, so I was way off on that one. I wasn't even close. I
did not know this. I wanted to ask a question about this, and then I saw my boy George in there, so I was like, "Ooh, got to use him."
Yeah, no, I read that riots one not too long ago, where the riot day Haymarket riots from Pullman. So that was a good one. All right, awesome, Jonathan. Thanks for coming on. Tom, thanks always. Jonathan, we have an event coming up that Straight Up Chicago is a sponsor here for the holiday party. Anything you want to say about that?
I think we released tickets. It's December 14th at A&M Mortgage. So if you go to Eventbrite, Meetup, wherever, we'll put the link out to me personally. But yeah, it's going to be an awesome event. It's teamed up with our Meetup, Chicago RE Investors, Chicago Multifamily Club, Windy City REI. So all three of our groups come together and we put together a Christmas party each year.
Awesome. And you invited us to be a sponsor, so we appreciate that. But thank you very much, Jonathan. Thank you, Tom. And listeners, we will see you next week.
Thanks all.
All right. Thanks, gentlemen.